Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 101 of the In a Nutshell podcast. I'm your host, Sean Vowells. I got Joe Meade with me, too. And tonight, we're going to be previewing week 2 for the Big Ten football. Big week 1 had episode 100, which was the recap. Episode 101 here, we're previewing week 2. Joe, we do have 2 games on Friday night. Northwestern hosting Western Illinois. That one should be a big victory for the Wildcats. Maryland hosting Northern Illinois as 17.5-point favorites. Probably best if we don't have to talk about this on Sunday.
Yeah, Northwestern, if they lose, they're going winless. Maryland, if they lose, they're going 3 wins. So hopefully they watch. If I'm Mike Locksley, I'm not putting the rest of Northern Illinois season on tap. I'm just putting the Notre Dame game from last year.
All right, let's move the calendar to Saturday. We've got Florida International going up to Happy Valley. Penn State 42.5-point favorites. Let's hope they roll. But we do have 2 big ones here at noon, Joe. We've got Illinois going on the road to Duke, noon on ESPN. Illinois, slight favorites. It's anywhere from a field goal to 2.5 points, but a real interesting one here for Brett Bielema, a team that they should be beating, but it's a game that they could also lose. So what are you looking for here in North Carolina?
This is such a strange game to me, Sean, because I don't really see a way Illinois loses, but the line is so much tighter than I thought. One thing that's probably gonna what's going to come down to is if Duke's secondary with Manny Diaz does an ample job taking away Altmaier's options and forcing him to scramble. I think Duke might have something because that's what Manny Diaz gets you in third and obvious passing, and that's what he'll, as you saw, whether it was Texas, his head coaching stint at Miami, which I know a lot of people think didn't go well and didn't go well, and his pretty good tenure at Penn State. He likes bringing the heat, so I think Illinois' interest with Lardy and Altmaier are going to be use their legs effectively, not only when they have to. And not only when it's a necessity. I think they should use it as a benefit because if they're scrambling on third down, it's not going to be a good thing. Um, I think Duke has some playmakers on offense. Again, I think this is a kind of a makeshift team with Mensa. I think Andrew Anthony catching the TD last week was also a good omen for them. But outside of that, Sean, I still think the Illini pull this out uh, unless Diaz really dials up the pressure and they get home on Altmaier a lot.
Yeah, as someone at Altmaier who started for a whole year plus, like, there should be nothing about this road game that really rattles them. Duke's going to have to do something crazy, not crazy, but well above what they're used to probably win this. I like Illinois to win this. I think it's one where they don't really blow them out, but they're up by like a score to 2 for the majority of the game, and Duke might have the ball once with a chance to tie it, but I think Illinois should win here. Um, and if they don't, it changes what their season looks like. Because Duke is not a terrible team. We 7-8 wins they're expected, but in the realm of the ACC, they are not at the top tier of the Miamis and the Clemsons and the Florida States. So let's hope Illinois gets the W there. All right, Joe. Noon. Big noon kickoff is headed to Ames, Iowa for the Cyhawk game. It's Kurt Ferentz going on the road to face the ranked 2-0 Iowa State Cyclones. Iowa State 3.5-point favorites at home, but a very interesting one here. We've seen Iowa State twice. They already have a big win in their conference. We just saw Iowa struggle to get out of the blocks against Albany, and then they ended up making the final score look more what we were expecting, but it seems like one team has played a lot more. Well, it doesn't seem like they have, but big test for Iowa here on the road.
Yeah, in reality, Sean, I have to pick Iowa State, and I think the Iowa winning would be not surprising because of the talent difference or anything to do with coaching. Because Kirk Ferentz has had very little issues with Matt Campbell over the years at Iowa State in general. Mark Gradowski just being a new QB from South Dakota State and Xavier Williams being probably going to be your workhorse back. I don't see them probably carrying the load as well as they would if they were 6 games into the season. I think this is such an early test, and I think between Michigan going to Norman, Illinois going to Durham, and Iowa going to Ames, I think this might be the toughest of them all. Rivalry game, contentious. I don't really have the feeling that Iowa fans view this game as house money as some Michigan fans might view the Oklahoma game. So, Tim Lester, year two of the offense, but year one with Gronowski. So, I have to take that into account, like I do with a lot of other teams. And I have to say, I don't think the offense is going to have a ton of success. And frankly, investing in Rocco Becht and Matt Campbell and this offense, which is mostly returned from last year, is probably a better investment than investing in Iowa here.
Yeah, if people have watched our other videos, Joe, you're very high on Iowa State. You think they're going to win the Big 12. They certainly look like they're capable of that. I just think with them having already played a big game, Iowa has played one game against FCS quality. Like, I think even if these were equal teams, I still think you'd have to give the edge to Iowa State. Just, they're ahead of them. They've played another game. They've had another week of game prep, and but Iowa State's at home, and I think they're the better team anyway. So I think it'll be tough for the Hawkeyes here. I do not expect them to get the job done. All right, a couple other bye games here in week one. Kennesaw State visits Indiana. Northwestern State visits Minnesota. Joe, did you see anything in these games worth talking about, or how either of these teams, Indiana and Minnesota, looked like in week one?
Minnesota, guard your running backs. Indiana, just try to get a rhythm going and cover the spread. That's about it.
Yeah. Fernando Mendoza, not very sharp week one against Old Dominion, and Indiana ended up winning, and the final score is a lot closer than it looked, but he certainly missed a couple throws that he probably won't miss very much. A couple late throws. And then Minnesota kind of got caught in a low scoring battle against Buffalo. They end up winning solidly too, but let's hope for the Big Ten's sake they get the job done. 3:30. You've got Grambling going to Ohio State. Shouldn't really expect any fireworks there. You've got Oklahoma State going out to Outson to play Oregon. Big 12 opponent for Oregon as well, Joe. One that is expected to finish near the bottom half of that conference, but it's still a power conference opponent for Oregon, despite being 4 touchdown favorites.
Yeah, I think the only mystery of this game is whether Oregon covers this 28.5 point
It's a
spread. I,
lot.
I think I think it's a lot. I don't think they do. I still think they would pretty comfortably. I'm not very sold on the Big 12 in general, let alone Oklahoma State, and I'm more sold on particularly the Oregon pass rush and Noah Whittington running through and making this just a clinical performance. So I have Oregon winning if I had to put a score on it, like kind of like 38-13, just kind of a boring-esque blowout game, but nothing that's going to be like a 70 burger.
All right, Miami goes to Rutgers. Miami did play Wisconsin week one, 17 to nothing Badgers. Rutgers played Ohio week one, and Joe, they needed a field goal relatively late. So hopefully for Rutgers' sake, they can be a little sharper in this one, and they should. They're 15.5 point favorites. It's not like they weren't scoring against Ohio, just a couple of defensive breakdowns. Good opportunity for Rutgers to bounce back from a near defeat here.
Yeah, I think the one bright spot you take is that the defensive lapses as bad as they were. You have Greg Schiano as your head coach. I doubt that's going to happen very often the rest of the year. Not to say you'll win 8, 9 games, but to say that it's going to get nipped in the butt pretty quickly in practice. And Anthony Calic is probably looked as poised and controlled as he ever did. And for all the people saying, "Oh, it's Ohio University," I'm of the belief a team that won the MAC last year at Ohio can compete with the bottom league and probably beat a lot of bottom tier teams in this conference. So I wouldn't be saying that it was just a MAC team. It was one of the best MAC teams.
All right, Middle Tennessee visits Wisconsin. The Badgers 4 touchdown favorites here. Akron visits Nebraska 34.5. Georgia Southern visits USC 4 touchdown favorites. Not much to go from there, Joe, other than let's see how many points USC can put up.
Yeah, hopefully Billy Edwards Jr. plays and is healthy for
I
the
don't
Badgers.
I don't think he is week two.
Yeah, well, hopefully they get him back for that showdown in Tuscaloosa, but who really knows? Last comment there, Sean, is you know kind of interesting. Clay Helton facing the guy who succeeded him at USC and Lincoln Riley from Georgia Southern. So kind of one of those weird ex-coach goes to face the new coach. Even though it's kind of like it's year four of the Riley era and year four of the Helton era in at Georgia Southern. So I think that's kind of gotten lost in the media, but just a fun tidbit for our viewers who are not in the West Coast.
All right. Well, of the 7:30 games, Southern Illinois also visits Purdue. UCLA plays UNLV. Your group of five pick to win in the college football
And
playoff.
UCLA's favorite. I don't like that, to be
Yeah,
honest.
it is at Allegiant Stadium, which I guess is a neutral. That's where the Raiders play. That might be where UNLV plays. I'm
No,
not
that's where
entirely sure.
UNLV plays.
It is.
So, and based on UNLV fans' enthusiasm for football, especially after last weekend, I think it's going to be a true UNLV home game.
Yeah, so that is something to look out for there. All right, two 7:30 games that we need to look out for here in the Big Ten. One of them involves your Michigan Wolverines. They go on the road to face John Mateer and the Oklahoma Sooners down in Norman, Oklahoma. 5.5 point favorites right now. Joe, both teams are in the high teens, while a big win here from either one could push them into the college football playoff conversation, but a big non-conference game here.
Yeah, this is probably the second year in a row Michigan's had a major non-conference game. They used to every year with Notre Dame before Notre Dame chickened out and stopped playing them. Just a little friendly bit of banter for our buddy James Schneider, who's a big Irish fan. Getting back on track though, Sean, this is going to be a battle of how much can Michigan really take out of Bryce's hands? Now, as we saw last Saturday, Bryce has all the ability in the world, but are they going to allow him to use it? Particularly, are they going to let him use his legs? Because against the Brent Venables defense with that pass rush, and I truly believe this is the best or second best defensive line Michigan will play all year. Against a defense like that, you have to have all options open, and I think Underwood using his legs is going to be a necessity in this game. So it's going to be up to Chip Lindsey and Sherrone Moore before he has a little 2 week vacation from the NCAA to, I think, use it at the right times. I don't think they have. I think Oklahoma has a feeling it's coming, but Michigan is would be better suited to not make it obvious. And then on the Oklahoma side, Sean, John Mateer is a guy who's been around. He's a playmaker. He extends plays. Sometimes the criticism of him at Washington State was he extended plays a little too long and tried to play hero ball. I don't think Wake Martindale, even without Jay Sean Barnum in the first half, which is complete and utter bleep bleep, is going to allow him to extend plays, at least not intentionally. So, going to be interesting to see kind of the chess match between a Venables D versus Chip Lindsey, and then vice versa, Martindale versus Oklahoma. So this game is more of a toss-up. I think 5.5 points is a little much for my liking. It initially started at 2.5 and kind of got skewed toward Oklahoma. Um, One last thing I'll mention, Sean, 'cause I know I kind of rambled and I won't be there, which is why I know a lot more about this game than Sean is. Oklahoma's rushing offense didn't look as strong. I don't think they emphasized it as much, and the rush D had a few lapses. I think that's going to be the story. If those are issues for Oklahoma, they'll lose. But I say that because I truly believe Oklahoma being at home with the more experienced QB, and kind of this is more of a must-win game for Oklahoma than Michigan overall in year four of Venables, with all the transfers they put in. I think Oklahoma wins a really, really tight game, 26-24. I think ultimately they drive the ball more, they stall out more, but I think they make one or two more plays than Michigan. I think they pick off Bryce Underwood late to win the game.
It's I think Michigan has to bring it, like they have to play a full complete game to win. I think it's certainly possible, but it is Bryce Underwood's first true road game as a college football quarterback. That's certainly going to affect him early. If you can have, if you can be in the game by halftime, like within a score, I think that's a victory for Michigan. And then you have to wear them down. They have to convert inside the red zone. It's just you got to check all the boxes for Michigan here. This is a tough game. That's why they're underdogs. Um, Oklahoma's offense is explosive, we think, and they did play a not a real opponent really in week one, but they, Oklahoma can score, 35 against quality defenses. So you got to keep it in the 20s, give them a chance, and then see what Bryce can do. If at the end of the game, there's Bryce has a ball with a chance to lead Michigan on a game-winning drive, I think you take that and you see what happens. And if it goes your way, great, you win a big game. If you don't, well, you're right there with a good team in the SEC on the road. So, yeah, I don't really think this makes or breaks Michigan's season. And with how tough the SEC is, it might for Oklahoma. So, they definitely have more on the line. All right, Joe, the other one here at 7:30 on NBC and Peacock is the return game between Boston College and Michigan State. The Spartans went on the road last year to Boston College and lost. It was a real good game. Could have gone either way. This time around, Michigan State is 4.5-point favorites. Childs, Nick Marsh connected for a touchdown in week one. Boston College not as talented as they were last year. Michigan State wants to have the season that we expect them to. This has to be a victory.
Yeah, well, last thing, sorry about the Michigan game shot. If Michigan scores the first TD, they win. I'm going to make it that simple too. But back to Michigan State, I think Michigan State is poised to win this game. I know Childs on the stat sheet didn't light it up against Western Michigan, but I think that was somewhat intentional. I think they really wanted to see what they have with this run game. I think their two backs, they've probably had better combos. I thought Nate Carter last year, downgrading from Carter to the current running back situation, is a minor problem for now. But I think Childs looked more poised in the pocket against Western. He made better decisions than he made from a year ago, and even toward the end of last season, when he kind of lost the trust of the coaching staff because they took a lot of his options away. I think with Nick Marsh, Jack Velling, I think that should be ample enough offense for Michigan State to win. I'm kind of shocked the line's still 3.5. I'd give Michigan State a touchdown on Boston College if I were the sports books,
At
but
least.
clearly, yeah. So I look at that and I think that Michigan State, the only way this game is not necessarily close, but gets scary for them is if they have the same problems from last year. If Childs, the fumbles come back and he tries to play the hero ball, kind of the thing I talked about with John Mateer, but to a more extent. Because I think Michigan State, the way their defense played, I think their interior D line is better than I thought it would be. And I think they do have a pass rush, unlike they did last year. So, with all that said, Sean, I think Michigan State probably wins this game 31-17. I think Aiden Childs makes all the right decisions. I think their defense probably dominates, and I think they probably have one or two lapses. But I don't think the Spartans are going to be fretting too much in the second half.
Yeah, they don't need Aiden Childs to be a superstar here. There are games where they will need that this year, and he'll have to take some chances. And if you go down swinging, so what? But if you go down turning the ball over to Boston College, then that's when the problems start to occur. I think they'll take it easy early. I could see this game being 10-7, 7-6, something like that at halftime. Before I think Michigan State will end up with a comfortable 27-15, 14 victory. I think they will get the rhythm going, but I see a little bit of a slow start. It is going to be 57 there, so just a little bit of a cooler day. That is Big Ten weather, but it is the only game in the 50s, according to ESPN here in the Big Ten. But Michigan State should be taking care of business here if they want to take the step from last year, get to 6, 7, maybe even 8 wins. That starts, well, not starts because started last week, but that continues with a victory here against BC.
Yeah.
All right, just one more game to talk about, Joe. It's UC Davis against Washington on BTN at 11 p.m. If you are watching this, congratulations. You made it through the day of football, and let's hope for everybody involved for your college football playoff projections that this is a big win for Washington.
Yeah, big win for Washington, and kind of like these other bye games, Akron, Nebraska, Grambling, Ohio State. There are zero injuries for either side because I say that for either side because I don't think you signed up to play at Grambling or UC Davis to play against uh, teams that will contend for national titles with monstrous freaks on their team.
Yep, get out there, get a couple good drives in, be efficient, score early. And if you do a good enough job in the first half, you might not have to go on the field in the second. So let's hope the Big Ten has another good week. And we'll see you next week. We'll see you Sunday for the week 2 recap. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in, and we'll see you next time.